Hello, hello everyone. I am Irene Williams. I'm here at Coverings, North America's largest tile and stone expo. I'm very honored to have Nicole Reyhle with me. Nicole is a retail guru. Am I safe to use the word guru? You'll take it?
Absolutely.
She consults and speaks across the nation at so many different associations, as I'm learning as we've chatted just before the camera came on. So we're very excited because so many people at this show and in our industry are retailers, and we can't wait to hear what you have to share with those who are watching and others in our industry, even if they're not retailers, because it all works together.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness. So let's start kind of a baseline from your vantage point. What's the health of brick and mortar, perhaps specific to tile and stone, if you've got your bearings on our specific industry? Just kind of lay the groundwork for us. Where are we at now?
So, you know, the rumor was for a while that brick and mortar's dead, but it's definitely not dead. In fact, I find this interesting, and I only mention this word. A lot of people don't like it, including myself. I struggle sometimes. But Amazon is opening over 2,100 physical stores within the next 2 years.
Wow.
And I think that tells us something at large when we think about retail, because they have data and metrics that tell us physical is in fact alive and thriving. And when we narrow that down to specifically tile stone coverings, it is also alive and thriving, because 53% of consumers, in a report that came out from Forrester Researcher and IBM, they actually use digital and mobile to help influence their purchase decisions, but their path to purchase lands in physical stores.
Right. It seems logical that this kind of product, you need to touch it, feel it, experience it before you make that final decision. So that is very good news, because we know these retailers are providing such valuable service.
Absolutely. And there's so much more to retail than just purchasing. You know, retail really is an engaging opportunity. It's shoppertainment, if you will. And as consumers, you have the opportunity to experience these fantastic stores within the coverings categories, you know, whether it's flooring or tile or all of the above for that matter. And within that environment as a retailer, you have the opportunity to give your customers an experience that online simply cannot.
Right.
You can offer them engaging opportunities, educational opportunities, and provoking opportunities that push them to buy.
Right, and the chance to connect with a human being.
Absolutely.
That assures them they're going on the right path to make that purchase. So,
yes.
So you spoke here at the show, you did a featured presentation, and I believe you focused on technology quite a bit. So what are some technologies relevant to retail that is making the experience more engaging?
So one of the things we talked about this morning here at Coverings was how merging online and offline technologies to help better understand the customer can help strengthen store success. So, you know, as I mentioned earlier, that statistics regarding that 53% of consumers begin online, but they end up in physical stores. Right. Well, there's a lot of other data that tells us that many consumers never even go online. They go straight to the store.
Oh, wow.
And vice versa, okay?
Yeah.
So what we need to take away from that is that the path to purchase is not straight anymore. It's varies for every customer,
jagged.
Right? And so there's going to be distractions, there's going to be barriers, there's going to be complications.
We hope you are enjoying Coverings.
Oh boy.
We are enjoying it though, right? So
that's right.
Now happening on the show floor.
There's a happy hour, which we cannot participate in because we're here for you on the live stream. But we're going to hang on a second till the announcement goes away so we can concentrate.
And have a great day.
Okay,
how fun that there's a happy hour though, right?
Yeah. You know, it's an international show. There's a lot of great yummies and libations on the show floor.
That actually reinforces what we just talked about, how retail is entertaining and engaging, and so are these show experiences, which I love. So, but when you think about the path to purchase, there's a lot of technology that can help connect the dots between retailers and consumers. So at the very, very basic, you have Google Analytics, which is free, and I'm always surprised when I present anywhere, but today included, I ask who's using Google Analytics, and very, very few people are.
Really?
In fact, they don't even recognize it as a value that's going to connect their dots between understanding if someone's using email marketing or social media or even their own website. Google Analytics is going to deliver clarity on where the clicks are coming from, and for that matter, where they're not coming from. They might be under the assumption that they're getting more clicks somewhere that they're actually not. And really narrow in on which web pages get more views than others and so forth. So that's entirely free. So at the very minimum, I encourage all retailers to start to incorporate a Google Analytics analysis into their
Amen, sister.
everyday, yeah, absolutely.
Please use your analytics, yes.
And so beyond that, we want to look at actually your point of sale technologies. Your point of sale is really the heartbeat to your inventory management, but also your customer management. Okay, and every POS system is different, so I can't tell you that they're all the same. But from a general perspective, your point of sale technology is what will allow for integrations, arms, if you will, that touch all these other technologies. So for example, now consumers have various preferences in which payment they want to use when they purchase something.
Okay.
This is even more important in a category like coverings where it's an investment for consumers. They're, depending on what they're spending their dollars on, they might say, this is a big investment. We're redoing our kitchen or our master bath. Maybe they're just doing a small entry foyer floor. Whatever it is, it's important to them. And the dollars they're spending, that is driven by sentiment from consumers, right?
Yes.
But here's the thing. Millennials and Gen Z, many of them don't even have credit cards. Okay? And
That's interesting.
1/3 of the US population will be Gen Z by the year 2020. Okay? They are among the largest demographic of consumers. So I would challenge retailers in the covering space to say, do you know your audience? And if you know your audience, you're going to start to unveil the fact that not all of them want or even have credit cards to use.
Right. And even right now, a Gen Zer may not be in a place to purchase a permanent surface for a home. They're not at a home purchasing point in their lives yet, but better to know that on the front end and be ready when they get there.
Absolutely.
Instead of chasing the millennials like a lot of folks did.
And millennials, 1 in 4 millennials are now parents. So they are building these homes and creating, for that matter, there's more increasingly becoming parents and they're nesting more. And 21% of their income is discretionary, right? But suddenly that family unit and that home nest is more and more important to them. And they also don't like credit cards as much as older generations do. So I say that because there's a lot of technologies nowadays that can actually welcome customers to use. One in particular is called Afterpay. There's another one called QuadPay. These are both installment paying technologies that are essentially apps that are integrated into point of sale systems that retailers that can offer their customers. And at that point, a customer can make a purchase through this installment paying. It's basically a modern layaway.
Right.
Without
or modern financing.
That's exactly
concept.
right. Yes, without the credit attached to it. So it's definitely different than that. But these are just a variety of the technologies that are influencing the path to purchase. And the other thing I will say on that is that customers, how we start that path to purchase often is influenced by technology, okay?
Sure.
So, for example, I have my twin sister in Chicago, she's going through a renovation, and she starts her search for a bathroom remodel and her kitchen remodel with hashtags on Instagram and Pinterest. Okay.
I'm a hashtag geek.
I am too.
So I love that story.
And so, and yet so many people within this space aren't using hashtags as an avenue to market to their customers, and yet it's that technology touch point that's connecting them to customers. So there's a lot of influence from a lot of different ways with how technology is ultimately moving barriers between consumers and brands.
Wowza.
Yeah.
So in your audience today, did you get a feel for who was there? Do you think you had mostly retailers?
So I always ask that.
Right.
And this is my 5th time I've been at coverings over, the last many years. And it's so fun to see how you have retailers, but you have distributors, you have manufacturers, you have a variety.
You usually get some kind of mix.
Absolutely.
In a room.
A contractor was there today. I know in the past I've had architects. So it's great to see that because I really love that the manufacturers and the distributors are saying, we want our retailers to be successful. We want to better understand how we can support them. And those technology touch points are a big part of that equation.
Do you feel like a lot of retailers don't even know where to go to learn what's coming next? How do they keep track of all of this?
Well, that's a great question.
Through you?
Well, at retailminded.com, we do offer a free resource guide. It's, completely free, and it's been Retail Minded approved, if you will. Sort of like that good housekeeping seal of approval.
Yes.
So that's our job, is to constantly research retail. And so, in addition to articles and content that can help guide them in just understanding the operations of retail, that resource guide is always a great resource. Yeah. But coming to events like this, coverings, you guys do such a fantastic educational experience year to year, and so that's so valuable.
It's worth making the trip to get these kinds of insights. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, as they're starting to embrace some retail technology, what are issues that they should brace themselves for? Things perhaps like privacy, data collection, those kinds of things?
Certainly you want to make sure that the technologies that you're working with are factoring in the actual concerns of consumers, which would include that privacy. The other thing I think is very important is integrations, making sure that when you invest in a technology, so looking beyond your free technology, which is like Google Analytics, social media, when you're investing in any other platform, you want to look at who their existing partners are, as well as talk to those companies, challenge them. Who are your upcoming partners? Because it costs retailers more money to go backwards.
Oh, yes.
Today I heard it a few times. So, they invest because they're ready to get a point of sale, but what they don't recognize is that point of sale company might not integrate with all those e-commerce sites or potentially payment apps or even shipping, if shipping's a big part of your business. There's a great company out there called Refund Retriever that does parcel auditing. And a lot of retailers don't know that. This is basically where they audit the shipments that retailers make, and with those audits, you will get automatic refunds from FedEx or UPS based on your contracts. The human touch alone, keeping up with that is just so hard.
Would be insane.
Yeah, but yet retailers are saving money every month by doing this. So a lot of these technologies are not just easing efficiency in operations, they're actually capturing dollars for retailers.
And I see in our industry, not just retailers, but when there's technology involved in an initial investment, people are so hesitant.
Right.
And like you said, it can be very simple to choose something that doesn't integrate well, but eventually there is that payoff. There's like a life cycle benefit of that investment, and you need people to look to the back end of this process and go, you will ultimately save money.
Yes, and it's an investment of time up front, and it's an investment of money up front for many of these technologies. But giving the time is essential, because too often it's intimidating to even understand it.
Right.
But taking the time to at least turn to the resources that do understand it to help guide you can help, or taking the time for yourself to understand it, getting those demonstrations, all of these technologies that provide point of sale, for example, or any sort of back end order management, operational behind the scenes, they offer demonstrations, and I would encourage retailers to actually use them.
Yeah, so more of like a mom and pop, a one-off, or they have just a few locations.
Yeah.
How realistic is it for a smaller business to really take the deep dive and start to do this right?
So it's very realistic. In fact, it used to be that was what the fear was that it was unrealistic. But now these companies are catering to independent single store owners, as well as multiple store owners, as well as store owners who want to be what is referred to as omnichannel. They want to make sure that they're connected within that e-commerce space as well as the physical brick and mortar space. And not sure if you heard, but Instagram now sells as well directly from there. So it's not just e-commerce, we have S-commerce.
I own shoes that I bought through Instagram.
Yeah,
please.
Fantastic. Yeah. So there's a lot of commerce out there, and again, that path to purchase. So you got your e-commerce, your S-commerce, your traditional brick and mortar commerce.
Yes. So this is the omni-channel. Define omni-channel.
Yes, that's a great question. So omni-channel is where you connect the dots between all the touch points in which consumers can make a purchase.
Okay.
And so if I were to buy something online, it would be identified within that same inventory count in-store, online, and anywhere else within the touch points of that retailer.
Gotcha.
A multi-channel business is where this is separated, where everything is not connected.
Okay.
And nowadays,
you hear them interchangeably sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And really, as a retailer, you really need to invest in the omni-channel, because today's technologies are tomorrow's sales. Right? So today's technologies are tomorrow's sales.
That's your tweetable from this conversation.
Yeah, and when you think about that, if you are not actually embracing today's technologies just yet, you're already missing tomorrow's sales, right? So don't go backwards and be multi-channel. Instead, invest in becoming omni-channel moving forward.
Yeah.
So, and for many retailers, that does mean going backwards for a second to make sure you move forward in the right direction. But your customers, they've already moved forward.
Right.
Think about our own consumer experiences. We don't go backwards. Mm-hmm. We move forward. And so that's what, I would challenge
I'm a very
retailers.
good consumer.
Yeah.
Very progressive in my shopping.
That is something I can relate to.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you've been to the show several times.
Yes, I love it.
So have you been able in any of these moments, because I know you travel a lot and this is trade show season, do you ever walk the show and kind of survey what's happening?
I absolutely do. And shows are really a great representation of what retailers can mimic within their own store environments as well.
That's a great point. I love that. Yes.
Because these vendors and distributors, they offer the opportunity to, of course, highlight their inventory. But as a retailer, you can learn from that. How are they doing that? What is engaging? What made you stop? I always challenge retailers to say, are you making your customers hit pause?
That's a great question.
Why do they want to hit pause? And when you walk this show floor, I'll ask you the same. What makes you hit pause? Mm-hmm. And so as you're navigating the show floor here at Coverings, I've hit pause many, many times. You guys have so many fantastic vendors here. I mean, I'm glaring out already, distracted because there's so much. So, and a lot of that comes down to lifestyle merchandising, where retailers can relate to that because it looks like a lifestyle environment where they've actually created a small bathroom, powder room, or a kitchen environment that you can relate to. Other times it's simply through a touch. They encourage touch. You want your customers, by the way, to feel as if they can walk into your retailer space or your showroom and not be intimidated to not touch and engage with this product, because what is being sold at Coverings is not just product, it is living. It is a lifestyle. It's going to create homes and environments and commercial spaces, and that involves touching, engaging, and being a part of that.
Yeah. So in the years you've spoken at Coverings, I'm sure you kind of get your brain in the game for this industry before you're going to stand in front of a crowd here. So in these years, have you seen any evolution in how this business is flowing with retail?
I have,
you've been speaking during peak years of e-commerce coming into play and that kind of thing.
So what I've really enjoyed seeing is how retailers and brands alike have leveraged the online and the offline conversations.
Okay.
Because as a consumer, you have the opportunity to get into that physical store, but you're not always there. So what are you doing to stay in connection as a brand or retailer with those customers? So I love seeing online used as an avenue through that path to purchase. And a lot of that does come with social media, but a lot of it's extending to like house, for example. I think we can all agree, we've seen that strengthen over the years. But by no means has it been diluted. It's still just as important as ever before, if not more so.
Right.
Because content creates conversation, and social media is content. And content isn't just flat written word anymore. It's video content. You can be showing how-to videos. I love when I personally look for anything within the home category and they're giving me a video example of what that looks like.
Right.
And for some that might mean actually applying tile to a backsplash. For others it might be how to, do more of a decor. So there's a lot of different things. And I see within the covering space that coming on both sides of the equations. The exhibitors explaining to the retailers how to do that, and then the retailers leveraging that to their consumer audience.
Do you have any tips? Because I deal with digital marketing, content creation. That's my day gig. How do you advise people to carve time for content creation? It's a question I get asked a lot. I'd love to hear your take.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think that if you're not carving time, you're missing out on opportunity. You need to be proactive to be profitable. So part of it is simply eliminating the decision to say, no, I don't have time. I mean, that's just the hard truth and reality of it all.
That's kind of life.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you need to be proactive in order to be profitable. And when it comes to social media, there's a long list on any retailer's to-do list, right? There's a lot to do on that checklist to say, I need to get this done. The merchandising, the inventory, the employee management, the customer service, the list goes on and on. But social media needs to be at the top of that. And if that means allocating that to someone on your team to do, or if that means having some sort of automated support from social media, which I'm not a huge fan of, but if it's at least going to start to get you engaged.
On the path,
Yes. So I absolutely think that it just comes down to personal accountability.
Right.
Yeah.
You speak to a lot of different industries. Obviously we're covering tile and stone. Are there any common threads through all retail experiences that you see people struggle with? And so what are a few of those?
One of the things I see the most is that Retailers often open their retail businesses because they have a passion and a love for something. So in this case, tile, stone, interior, okay?
Right.
And so because of that, they're opening this fantastic experience that they're so passionate about, there's emotion involved. But what they don't always love is the business behind the scenes.
Oh, yes.
So I've seen that across all categories. You know, I'm thinking of an outdoor bike retailer store within my own community that opened and quickly closed within 6 months, you know, and it's heartbreaking to see that because you know they had such great intent. So I would challenge retailers to make sure that if that's not where you're going to excel, make sure you find someone who can excel at it for you. It's okay to look externally to bring into your internal business to help those operations be more efficient. You know, and sometimes that might take an investment, but the return of what that can deliver is better for your business. So I see that across all categories all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're an author. Tell us about some of, and you mentioned your free resource. You know, you're kind of like approved guide of potential sources. What else do you have for the folks who are watching that might need some encouragement?
My first book is called Retail 101, The Guide to Managing and Marketing Your Business. So that's really a brick and mortar retailer's guide with action steps at the conclusion of every chapter that's going to talk about all the different facets that influence retail and the business of a physical brick and mortar store. And then I actually have another book coming out early next year, and that's going to talk more about the Omnichannel experience, which is very relevant.
We need it now.
Yes, we do. I know, I agree. So 2020 is right around the corner, and there's a lot of great stuff that will be in there as well. And then the resource guide at retailminded.com is free. That's great for any retailer to just look at and capture information across, again, all those technology touch points, as well as the physical brick and mortar touch points as well.
Right.
And the other thing I would say, I mean, data is coming to us from every single angle, including physical brick and mortar stores. You can actually get foot traffic monitoring counts that you can attach to the top of a door or anywhere in your storefront to actually monitor the human traffic behavior. Not human trafficking, but the actual traffic behavior.
We're with you.
So you want to make sure that you're understanding that. That's going to influence how you staff your employees, what marketing you might do, why you might consider re-merchandising your store floor. It allows you to be more precise and more proactive in your efforts as well as your investments. You know, and collectively all of this data coming in from various angles allows you to be more profitable. The catch is with any data, you absolutely have to review it and react to it in order for it to make sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't just capture it.
No. Everybody likes to get the numbers, but I'm always like, let's interpret the data. Let's storytell what is it telling us. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
Well, so you're here the rest of the day.
I sure
You're going to be able to walk the show floor a little bit?
Yes, I'm very excited to.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, we're so glad you carved a few minutes for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You've had a crazy schedule these last few days, so thanks for being here.
Always happy
Great
to be here.
Meet you.
Thank you. You too.
And thanks for all of you for tuning in.